As was in our message, we were unable to do an aerial survey yet today, so it's going to be delayed. It might be later this afternoon. We did go out and do some assessments on the ground, and what we saw this morning was that the widening, or the area of the flow that was widening, which we had a breakout, that breakout did turn and has been moving, and it moved downhill in the last 2 days in the total, or on average, about 200 yards per day. And it's about 0.6 miles from the highway area above, using it again as a reference, not that this is the destined path or point of destination, but we're using as a reference the highway area in the vicinity of the fire station, police station. So it's about 0.6 miles up from the highway in that area, so more Malka there. So right now we do have, some activity downslope. It's probably in the same parallel to or adjacent to the level of where the stalled flow front is at. So the same general, maybe elevation, if you want to call it, coming downslope. It was very sluggish this morning, crusted over, so we're watching that very closely. But again, indication that the lava and molten material is making its way down to the lower levels at this point. And still, even though behind the flow front, about 300 yards back, is where we see surface activity and no activity on the stalled front, we're still having activity that continues to break out and move downslope. Again, that's where we're at. We're also going to be trying to do that assessment later to see what, if any, changes occurred upslope with the north breakouts, the 1 to 1.5 miles, as well as any change in activity on the flow pad and going up to the summit area or the vent area. And that's what we saw today, and again, thought it was of value to share with you that we do have a brush fire as well as activity downslope that's in the same general elevation as the stalled flow front, and we're monitoring that very closely. So if you have any questions for me.
How close is this breakout to the marketplace?
The breakout actually is more to the north rather than to the, using the marketplace as a reference. Because where it's at, it doesn't look like it would be likely it would proceed towards the marketplace. It would actually be further north moving downslope. Still a little early to say with any certainty that it's going to continue to move downslope. But as I mentioned at the onset of this briefing, is that as a reference point, I'm using the police station, fire stations, and coming up Malka or westward from there, which gives you an idea that it is further north in the marketplace area.
And you mentioned it was moving slowly today.
Yeah, this morning when I actually went out there and walked on the ground on the firebreak, it was moving very slowly.
Hey, Chief, this is Megan from the Star Advertiser. This isn't the breakout that was heading towards a downslope path or steepest descent path towards Maku'u's farmers market, right?
No, this is, again, if you looked at the earlier maps that both HBO and we had been putting out there, we were watching a widening of the flow pad just behind the stalled flow front, maybe about 300 to 500 yards.
300 yards. Okay.
So that's where it came off of, that widening area. It kind of broke off a small lobe there and then turned to the east and had moved downslope. The flow that you're talking about, that we're looking at the flow path or path of steepest descent that would go towards the marketplace or further north, is actually the breakouts that are further upslope on the north margin.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
This is Chelsea Jensen with West Hawaii Today. This is either for Daryl or HBO. Do you guys expect, with the rate that new breakout is actually moving per day, to become a new leading edge in the coming days?
This is Steve. I think it was when this question came up before, we are referring to now two active parts of the flow. And this new finger that's advancing down slope started to emerge as a breakout on January 9th and has continued moving down slope at this point. And so it is the most active part of the flow at the flow tip. And it very well could become the new active flow tip, but it kind of makes sense to refer to this as an active flow and whether it is a few meters behind or ahead of the stalled tip doesn't seem that important to draw attention to. It's really the active part of the flow at this point.
Chief, in using the fire station and the police station as a reference, are they in line then to be threatened by this if it did continue on?
Well, one of the paths of steepest descent that is on the maps does take it in a direction of the fire and police station. But given the current activity that we've seen and the trends that we've seen, it's somewhat premature to say that it's imminent or immediate. But definitely there are paths of steepest descent that would take it in that direction.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
And to clarify one thing, you said earlier that the low, that breakout, the one that's just near the stalled front, was about 300 to 500 meters back. HBO has that it broke out January 9th, 765 yards back. Is that just a difference in the days?
I'm not sure what I was looking at.
Earlier,
Steve, yeah, I think that's it. It's just the difference in where you're measuring from and when things started. I was just trying to point out that this breakout started out as just a breakout along the margin of the flow on the north side on about January 9th. It's pretty apparent that it was active at that time, and it's now kind of broken off away from the margin of the flow, and it's sort of creating its own downslope direction now.
Okay, thank you.